All right, welcome to the Permaculture Pimpcast, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. The only Pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, practical living, and sometimes even prostitutes. Well, I'm teamed up with my homeboy, T from Mountain Readiness. Y'all know who he is. T, say hi to the people out there.
What's going on, folks? Glad I could be here. And of course, man, I was cutting it short. But I slipped in right at the last second. I wish I was Billy though, man. He's soaking up the rays.
Well, yeah, I'm soaking them up all right, but I'm at an undisclosed location for reasons of security, therefore insecurity. So, yeah, folks, I'm definitely not in the studio right now. And if you watched anything on X or anything else, you'll find out that I'm actually I'm in another country. So hopefully the signal stands out here. They're working on 3G down here. So hopefully things kick off. Hey, I don't want to fool around, y'all. We got a limited time with our guest, which is AJ Richards. I mean, unless you're living under a rock, you probably know who this guy is. And by the way, folks, if you're just coming in right now, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Tell everybody we're live so they can go ahead and start suppressing us. That's the way it normally goes anyway. So how you doing, AJ?
Doing awesome, guys. I'm glad to be here with you and appreciate the invitation.
So right out of the gates, bro, for the people that are just now, hearing about you and what you do, folks, you really want to pay attention to this because he is doing some pretty awesome yeoman's work, the kind of work that definitely needs to get done. So, AJ, for all the people out there, who is AJ Richards for the folks that don't know?
Yeah, I'm a city slicker cousin of 6 generations of cattle ranchers from southern Utah, northern Arizona. If you're in the ag space, you probably heard the name Bundy Ranchers. That's my family. So, that's where I grew up, who I grew up with. But like I said, my mom married a contractor, so we weren't in ranching but spent my entire adult life trying to be wealthy enough to buy one. And those property values they're staying ahead of me, dang it. But really, started selling beef for my family's ranch in 2019 as a way to get involved when I felt like I needed to, and COVID hit. The rails fell off our food system. Other pressing needs became really clear to me. And so we got to work on building an ecosystem that is built by and for farmers and ranchers that prioritize their needs and make it easier for customers to find them. So we've been working in policy. I mean, if you would have told me, 3 years ago, even heck, 2 years ago, some of the conversations I'd be having in Washington, D.C., I wouldn't have believed it. But here we are.
Let me kick this one off, T, and then we'll just tag teaming back and forth. From right out of the gates, folks, what you don't know is that AJ is a big, big hero out there in terms of food sovereignty. But what was the impetus that actually put you in that space? What made you say, okay, this is the direction I'm going to take my life?
Yeah, it's a good question. Couple of things. First, I was focused on regenerative agriculture before the food system itself was the primary focal point, because that was pre-COVID. It was like, I knew the food system sucked, but I just didn't know the level of weakness that it was currently at. So regenerative was the first focus, and I was trying to pass what I'd learned on to some other folks that were actual ranchers. But what is a city slicker going to tell a rancher? So that was not getting anywhere. But really, in that research, I came across Neil Spackman, who did the Saudi Arabia Al-Baida project.
Big fan.
And what he highlighted was, unless you fix the economic impact of the community, you're not going to make an impact at a greater level, right? The reason those folks wiped out mangroves was because they needed it for firewood and to sell. So if you just replant mangroves without fixing the economics, they'll do it again. And so that was part of it. And then the biggest thing was we were selling beef direct to consumer. The business was growing, doing really well. COVID hits in March. By the end of March, we called to get our next round of processing just to feed the customer base we already had. And they said, yeah, we can get you in a year and a half. And I was like, wait, what? News is talking about empty store shelves. There's fat cows standing in the field, but consumers and producers have become separated. And so that's really how it kicked off. I mean, this is God's design. I'm just following. It's way beyond me. It's way too big of a problem for me. So I just walk by faith and try to meet the right people. But yeah, that's really what kicked it off, was seeing the food system crumbling in real time, and then just starting to dig into how do we potentially fix it.
No doubt. No doubt. You know, it's been a couple years since we got to hang out. Right? It's amazing how fast time flies as well. And it seems to get faster every single year. Right. But, you know, let's talk. I mean, let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about From the Farm, the platform that you put together, why you put this together, why you assembled this. And then we can start delving into, you know, all those different areas and aspects of that platform.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we are a company, but really we're a company. It's a mission. And that's, sometimes I even lose sight of that because, you know, I don't know, just maybe not wanting to self-promote, which is not okay, because we're really here to be of service. But we built a platform that is really simple to build a store on, because I had my 65-year-old ranching uncles in mind. They don't want to be in front of a computer at all. So if they're going to have to be, how do we make it as simple as possible for them to publish their food online? And so our entire design and vision has been, first, how we serve the farmer, second, how we serve the consumer, and then God will provide for From the Farm to make sure we have the resources we need. So simplification to build an online store was the focus, but also the marketing. Marketing is such a big line item for producers, farmers, and ranchers to promote their product in many areas, that our long-term vision is that if we can make From the Farm the household name to shake the hand that feeds you, then the farmers no longer have to market. They can focus on farming and just have their product available, right? If you have an Airbnb, you're not marketing your Airbnb. They did that for you. You're not dealing with the legalese because they did that for you. You're not dealing with the scheduling because they did that for you. So if we can simplify Farm Direct at the same sort of level that Airbnb did it for their industry, then we move a lot of the challenges out of the way for the producers. Now, the most important thing about our mission is that the farmers and ranchers on our platform keep 100% of the retail dollar. That's really hard to accomplish because all of our costs up front, they're not backed by immediate revenue, but we have to do it this way. And my fear is, if we started a company that took commission, and then somehow as we grew, I lost control of the company, and an investor came in, and we'd already opened up those floodgates. 10 years down the road, what we might start at 5 or 10% commission, which is very fair to producers, could get manipulated, and now it's 50% in an ecosystem we finally had an opportunity to prioritize the farmers and ranchers in. And so it's just a non-starter for us. We actually launched taking a 15% commission on sales that we help farmers get. But it just didn't sit right with me. It was uncomfortable that exposure was there for our producers. So we turned it off. We have other areas we can earn revenue. The long-term vision is all of the things that are necessary to go direct, like boxes and insulation and gel packs. If we can aggregate right from the manufacturers and cut costs there, there'll be a little commission for us. So by volume, we make enough there. Same with shipping. We can aggregate and drop shipping costs and have a small commission. So our task is to find all of the areas that support Farm Direct and find ways to earn revenue there without taking it from the producers, who are the ones that we need to serve and protect.
Now, AJ, where do the hiccups exist in this system? Because we spoke a moment ago about you back and forth to DC, and you know, every time you turn around, you know, you're another place trying to evangelize what it is you're doing. What is the American public missing? What don't they know? And why the need? This is something of a rhetorical question, but why the need for you to go to Washington? And what exactly are you trying to get them to change their minds about?
Yeah. So if you build an ecosystem for farmers to sell direct, but yet the laws and regulations don't allow it, then we didn't accomplish anything. And there are many states throughout the country that their laws don't allow for raw dairy, or they don't allow for, selling online from a state inspected slaughterhouse if somebody's across the border. So there's all these things like that unless we fix those, or the fact that we have the lowest cattle numbers in America, in the last 70 years. What's prevented that? Well, if we look at decades of lawfare and targeting from public land, specifically like Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management, that have these folks that get trained at some, college to be taught that cattle are a problem for the environment. And now they're the ones who go get the job as a local range manager. And they're the ones who approve whether a farmer or rancher can put in cross fencing or water lines or whatever necessary to grow the herd. That's all been affected by policy. And so if we don't change some of these things so that ranchers can expand their herd, then we didn't accomplish anything. So we've spent a lot of time advocating out there for the independent ranchers. And when I say independent, I'm talking about people who the big four are not their primary customers, or they would prefer they're not. Like, they haven't bought into that system. They're still fighting it. And so that's who we're there to serve. And from personal experience, I started going out there in May of last year, working directly with the Secretary of Agriculture. I get this insider privilege that I know most don't. And I'm grateful for that, because frankly, if I didn't have that access, I might be screaming on social media that they're not doing enough and they're not doing the right things. But because I am there, I know that many of the things that people are focused on and want, they're working towards it. Probably the most disappointing thing about going to DC was learning how our own bureaucracy is preventing common sense. And there's a lot of hoops that have to be jumped through just to implement common sense practices. That I'll tell you that this secretary is very on board with and aware of. She just has confinements that she has to navigate to get things done. It's quite unfortunate and complicated.
So constant hurdles, constant walls, and she wants to make a difference, but she has to go through the proper chain, which is the cards are stacked against.
Yep.
So.
Now, this administration, the interagency working is at a level I don't think America has ever had. And what I mean by that is how closely the Secretary of Agriculture is working with the Secretary of HHS, who's working with the Secretary, all of these cabinet members are working together, which is great, because what typically would happen is if there's a string that she needed to pull on, it's also attached to this agency. And if they're not talking, that's where it dies. But now they're all working together. So we were at a meeting last week in DC when they announced the Lawfare, Farm and Ranch Freedom Lawfare group. And the Secretary of Urban Housing was in the meeting. Why? Because one of the people that they went to battle for was the Henry family farm that many people have heard of, that was being attacked for eminent domain by their local community. Well, Rollins went to work to help, but she's only over USDA and Forest Service. So what lever can she pull when it's local? Well, because of how close this cabinet is, she went to the Secretary of, Urban Housing, that was able to find the lever to pull to get them to leave the Henrys alone. So without that interagency working, it just wouldn't have gotten done. I can say the same thing about the King Ranch in Washington. The King Ranch in Washington, they have these stock water ponds, which, if you're not familiar with what that is, you basically dig a hole and let it fill up with water. They've been on the ranch for a long time. Well, the Washington State Department of Environmental Quality came after them, claiming that they ruined alkaline wetlands. And they're like, what are you talking about? Many of these are families installed when they homesteaded or took over this ranch 100 years ago, but yet they're claiming it's alkali wetlands that they ruined. And so, but because it's coming from the state versus, a federal entity, there's a challenge there. So Rollins has to navigate how to find the right levers to get them to leave them alone. So it's been quite fascinating to see how all of that's working.
Fascinating and challenging.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it seems, man, if we need to do away with anything, it's definitely bureaucracy. AJ, because we talk a lot on this show of permaculture, preparedness, and practical living, from your perspective, how fragile is our food supply?
Oh man, we haven't recovered from COVID. Our numbers are continuing to drop. I think people should know how to grow a garden. Do I think that the only way we fix this is if this is what God wills, because that's how much trouble we're in. I mean, if we get another black swan event like COVID, I think we're going to have way worse problems than we did the first time around. Our systems are fragile and they've been exposed. We have 27 to 30 slaughterhouses that process 80% of the meat we consume.
Insane.
And they have biosecurity, but they don't have physical security. So, you can imagine what kind of damage you could do if that was your only focus to attack.
Well, that would be one to hit, because food, that's number one priority. We saw just not too long ago when the SNAP cards were, nobody was talking about being able to put money back on those, and look at the chaotic mess that created just in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
I was in the transportation industry during COVID, and of course I saw a lot of the same challenges, the supply chain issues. I dealt with a lot of the different ports, the South Carolina Port Authority, Wilmington, everything down the East Coast. I had a hand in, usually with a lot of the big names in the trucking industry. But I keep hearing a lot of stuff too of, just a few years ago, we had multiple redistribution centers that just up in smoke, burned to the ground. Mm-hmm. One was in Indianapolis, which a friend of mine used to do a lot of work at. And he was like, yeah, man, I believe that was the one that the plane supposedly, there was a plane that flew into one. That one there, I don't think was a plane, but I know it caught on fire. And before it was all said and done, the entire redistribution center was burned to the ground, every trailer around the entire facility. And I know you guys have seen these places. They're massive. I used to work at Lowe's distribution centers, all these different places. I mean, it was nothing to have 300 to 500 docks and bays all the way around this building. Commercial, so it has commercial fire suppression systems, but somehow it just doesn't work. The whole place burns to the ground. And I hear about some of these processing plants out west and stuff like this that are just burning to the ground. We just saw one a few weeks ago on this side of the world, a big chicken processing plant that just went up in smoke. A few 100,000 chickens are gone. And I just, what's your take on how far do we have left before we really go sideways on this food supply thing?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a crystal ball, but the cattle numbers alone are cause for concern, right? We have 86 million head of cattle in our nation, with 320 million people to feed. And so if you think that one beef will feed a family of 4 for a year, we already outnumber the number of cattle we have to feed our nation. Then you add to that the Mexico border being closed because of the New World screwworm, and rightfully so, which we used to bring in lots of cattle from there. And now that's all locked out and doesn't look like it'll be open anytime soon because that problem is persistent. We're on the precipice. I truly feel like we are on the precipice, and the consumers need to be educated around. You kind of asked this question a little earlier, Billy. One of the biggest things I think needs to happen is educating the consumers the importance of buying local at the same scale that they did Victory Gardens of World War II.
That's right.
Because that's how close I think we are. And when you take into consideration that 1.8 million of our farms and ranches, that's how many we have left, farmers and ranchers, 1.8 million. 86% of those are considered small, according to the USDA. And what small means is $350,000 a year in gross revenue. So that means that wholesale sales doesn't make their farm viable because the wholesale value isn't enough to be profitable. So they have to receive as much of the retail dollar as they can, or keep working the off-farm job, right? Just to feed the habit. And so I feel like, and you know, what's been great is seeing Secretary Kennedy from HHS talk so much about buying local. Like we just need them to saturate the entire country and educate them about their food, but also educate them about, you know, we used to spend 30% of our budget on food and 8% on healthcare. Now it's 6% of our budget's on food, and, you know, healthcare for most is probably well over 30%, especially in their latter years with chronic health issues. So all of that needs to be taught so that they understand that the cost of food currently is actually probably fair for what it takes to produce it in many cases, right? But cheap, highly processed food has taught consumers that that's what food should be, and it's just not accurate. I mean, we eat probably 80% of our food in our house is sourced right from people we know, and it is a misconception that it's more money because when you extrapolate out the fact that, well, my wife made dinner last night, we actually have another meal. We have leftovers. I mean, I grew up on leftovers, but I don't think leftovers is a common household thing anymore because everything's heat and eat, one meal, and then you're buying, you're cooking, you know, you're warming up the next consumable for the next meal. But when we extract, my wife's like, well, we actually don't spend that much more. We're buying higher quality food. Our meals are larger, and we have 2 meals out of that one. We're actually spending less, but that connecting those dots is difficult, right? I used to be in self-development. So human nature, understanding the human psychology. And what I relate it to is when I was helping people lose, I used to coach people on how to lose like hundreds of pounds. You know, they didn't just have 10 pounds to lose. These were people that had lots of weight to lose. And what we taught was how to change behavioral change science. And what that means is, if, you know, how many people for New Year's, they've got this laundry list of New Year's resolutions, and then they never get done because it's too many. So what you do is you take one thing, you do that one thing until it becomes habit, and then you add the next thing and you do that till it becomes habit. So I relate that to my refrigerator and my pantry. I might be buying everything from the grocery store. I've never thought about buying from a local farmer and rancher. It's a little intimidating to figure that out. Okay, so let's take the behavioral change science approach and say, pick one item in your pantry or your freezer or your refrigerator and replace that locally. Just one. Don't look at it and be like, oh, everything in my kitchen is processed. That's okay. Just pick one thing and start there. You know, we started with beef because it's the industry I was tied to. We never buy beef from the grocery store anymore. And then we started raising our own chickens after we got really comfortable with beef purchasing. You know, a farmer may not be available, but now I'm comfortable enough. That's okay. I'll go find another guy because I've learned that behavior. I've learned how to have that conversation. And then you just stack. You know, we didn't go from 0 to 80% local food overnight. It was a couple of year process, figuring out where our contacts were, what are the questions to ask the particular producer of the food we're trying to buy is. So that's kind of how we approach that.
No, that's cool, because that's exactly how we started the whole thing too. And we're in that same position where essentially the only thing we really need to go to the store for is toilet paper and aluminum foil. And if at the end of the day, if more people did that, and like you said, okay, so maybe I don't grow the beef, but you know what? I grow a whole lot of sheep. Maybe I'm trading a guy over here. There's so many clever ways in which we can go about doing this. Or maybe I'm finding ways, and it's one of my claims to fame, is how we feed all of our omnivores for free. And you know what? We had so much abundance that I'm giving meat away. I'm giving food away. All the chickens we processed, all the pigs we processed, had to give most of that away simply because I got 8 freezers and they're plumb full. So it makes perfect sense. But AJ, I'm just gonna turn a little bit on a dime here.
Yeah.
I think our country just found out. Don't worry, I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah.
We just found out that the worst, at least in my view, the worst thing that could ever be revealed to the American populace, and I'm talking about the Epstein client list, was just made known to us. And by and large, I think give it a couple more weeks and we won't even be talking about it anymore. But that was the most dreadful thing ever revealed to the American people. And largely we're hearing crickets, not only from the politicians, but there's a whole lot of people out there that would rather just change the subject.
Yeah.
So with that said, I want to know, because at this point I'm willing to believe anything, is what's happening to our small farmers. Is this I don't want to lead you too much on this. Is this an intentional thing or is it structural? I'm personally leaning towards intentional. What's your thoughts?
I think that originally it was structural. Like when I say originally, I'm talking Reagan when he changed the antitrust laws that have now allowed for the big four to become consolidated, right? So I think then, and I could be wrong, and I might be wrong, that I don't think it was intentional for what it became. They just might have thought it was the best decision at the time, not knowing the consequences, this many decades later. Maybe it was intentional. What I can speak to, because I've been in DC now, is that it's not, the intention is to restore the power back to the individual farmers and ranchers. That is the topic of conversation. And it's genuine. The policies and things that are coming out are going that direction. Again, it takes, there's like stepping stones. It's like, well, the end result is common sense. Just do it. And they're like, well, we would like to actually, but we've got to get this person on board, this person on board, this person on board. So with this administration, they are trying to reverse what certainly became intentional to control us. I believe in the last 10, 20 years, regardless of how it started out, it certainly became intentional to control us. Control the food, you control the people. And that is what was happening in the last administration. I have no apologies for that whatsoever. That was what was happening. I mean, they were talking about cows being bad for the environment. We need to cull them. But no worries. We've got lab grown and fake meat. So you're good. Right. And then they supported the heck out of that while vilifying our farms and ranches. That was absolutely intentional. We've heard people talk about infecting ticks with alpha-gal syndrome. Well,
you took the words right out of my mouth.
Yep. I mean, we saw just thousands of cases here on the East Coast. I mean, it was insane over this past year. We actually raise, chickens here, and we process and sell to the general public. We go to a lot of the markets around us, and people are losing their minds. We cannot keep chicken in stock because so many people have contracted the alpha-gal that's all they got to eat, that and fish. And, if I don't want to, just like Billy said, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there like, it's intentional and stuff like that. But, I was thinking to myself here a while back, wouldn't it be interesting if they came out with a lab grown beef that alpha-gal, people with alpha-gal could actually consume safely? Yeah.
That's kind of where I was thinking on this whole thing.
Well, sell the problem, sell the cure. That's a playbook that's been repeated over and over again. So I would not put it past them at all.
Let me ask this. I was looking and checking out, import export of beef, and you're already you're telling us that, there's all-time low numbers of beef. There's not enough to go around. What was it last year? Over 3 billion pounds of beef were exported to other countries, And I guess most of those countries are like China, what else? South Korea, Japan. Like, what's going on there? Why are we shipping all this overseas when we don't have enough to go around here? And for that matter, why are we bringing all this meat from overseas to throw on the shelf at the, Wally World and stuff like that? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah. We are a net food importer now, which means we bring in more than we send out. And so that is the case. We are now exporting or importing more than we're able to sell and ship. It just comes down to consolidation over decades, right? You had these bad public land policies. You have conservation, similar to conservation easements in the East that take production off the land. So it's a really similar sort of case from when I'm talking to ranchers in different parts of the country. And so you had all of these issues that have shrunk the ranching numbers. I think since like 2017, we lost over 100,000 ranches. I mean, it's just, you got land values that are so high that the farm and the rancher's been struggling forever to make it. And somebody shows up and says, hey, we'll pay you $1 million an acre or whatever, depending on where they're at. And that's they're out finally, where they've been, raked over the coals for an entire generation or more. And so, yeah, the policies, that was the thing I was hoping to learn when I first went to Washington. And I told friends, I'm like, I'll know this is a legitimate ag secretary if she can acknowledge that the agency she took over is the reason we're in the situation we're in. Like, you're not at fault. You just got here. But if you can acknowledge that the USDA, the Forest Service, the BLM, the way they've been run is why we're where we're at. That's where the onus belongs. Then I'll know she knows that that's where the changes have to be done. And that is what I learned, is she's totally aware of that. I mean, the lawfare meeting that we had, let me share this. If you guys, I don't know if you can throw this up on the screen, but I'm going to load it in here real quick. But the lawfare meeting that we had in DC, it was historical in the sense that it kicked off. Now it needs to work, right? Words are one thing, actions are another, but this was a huge action. So what you're looking at is on the left side of that table, from tip to tip, those are all farmers and ranchers that have been persecuted throughout the nation, starting with the last administration. Now they represent, for every one you see there's 1,000 more, right, that are dealing with the same issues. But each one has a different issue they're dealing with, like I was saying earlier, whether it's state or federal. And so if you look on the right-hand side, the first three gentlemen in suits, those are attorneys. Some of them are former U.S. attorneys working with the secretary to take on their own agency's doings and state agencies. You see the cowboy hat on the right, that's John Rich. So they've brought John in to leverage his voice for this lawfare group because he's got a big reach. And then you've got the head of public land grazing for Department of Interior in this meeting. And this has been published, by the way. They recorded it, so you can go watch it if you're interested. I don't know where you'll find it, but just if you go do the lawfare, research, you'll find it. But each one of these ranchers and farmers got a chance to talk about what they were dealing with and how this secretary came in and went right to work. And even if it wasn't under her purview, she found the people and the levers to pull to get them to change. And, look, I tell people I'm not the expert. I'm learning enough. This is such a big problem. I'm learning enough to get you over the bullseye, but it's the farmers and ranchers that are going to help you hit it. So whenever I go to DC, I do not go alone. I don't belong in those meetings alone because I'm not the expert. I bring small groups of producers in different aspects that the secretary is looking to find answers for to meet with her, and then they tell her. And these ranchers and these farmers will tell you that they had never thought they would get the kind of support they're getting from the feds. And so, yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, it's going to take time for some people to really see the fruits of that labor. That's the hard part where, like I said earlier, if I wasn't there in DC, I might be saying they're not doing enough because I don't know what actually is going on behind the scenes. My engagement on social has gone down because I don't have a bunch to scream and yell about. The internet loves hate. They don't love the good things. So it's like hard for me to call out some bullshit when I know actually behind the scenes that's getting cleaned up, and they just got to get there.
I mean, it's hard for me to believe, period, on this end. I mean, I can see that. Like, it's great to hear. It's great to hear, but wow.
Yeah.
Well, that, like Thomas Jefferson said, that government is best which governs least. As far as I'm concerned, I don't even see in our Constitution why these people should even exist in any kind of way whatsoever. And AJ, you're wise to not go there alone. I mean, based on what we just heard coming out of, DC, you probably might wake up in a hotel bed missing a kidney. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be anywhere alone in DC, man. There is no way. There are congressmen talking about, hey, you get slipped a Mickey, you go to a party, and then you wake up with who knows what, man.
Yeah.
So I guess to get down to brass tacks on here, if you were running things, let's say you had, I know you say you're seeing the needle move, but there are things within this purview, like, for example, there are things not moving at all, and certainly not improving life for those of us out here producing food. And I'm talking about the chemtrail issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. The entire United States of amnesia is being covered up. The whole country. Where you are right now, you're having 50-degree weather when it should be below zero. We're experiencing, Florida, for crying out loud, was colder than it was in Juneau, Alaska. It was crazy. It was raining in Alaska and freezing in Florida.
Yeah.
Iceland was warmer than it was in Florida. So with all that said, is anything being addressed concerning, because I know you got a lot on your plate, and I know you're saying you're seeing the things move, but one of the most consequential things is the air we're breathing.
Yeah.
And even the most hoople-headed Marchie out there is waking up to every single day being covered up. I'm in El Salvador right now, and I haven't seen a one. And I am, as the crow flies, 10 miles from the airport. Haven't seen a single trail down here the whole time. But we're being covered up every single day in the United States of amnesia. Are you hearing any discussions concerning anything regarding geoengineering and how it's affecting our farmers?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not in those meetings. I know they're being had, but I don't know what the discussions are. And it is because, like you said, I'm looking at beef, and I'm looking at meat production by small family farms and ranches. I'm looking at dairy. I'm looking at produce. Like they all touch. I get it, but I'm just one guy. I don't have a research institute where I've got researchers working with me. I'm trying to run my company and grow that to serve our family farms and ranches while being involved in policy enough to get those things worked on, like even the glyphosate discussion. Now, don't get me wrong. I 100% agree. How can anything be labeled regenerative or organic or anything else if what's falling out of the sky is not? Like, it's not good for us. And I believe, like you guys, like, if I'm manipulating weather over here, how can I possibly not imagine it's going to make an impact where it would have naturally fallen or where it would have naturally moved to when I'm manipulating it by man? And, anyway, but same with the glyphosate conversation. That's important, but that's such a detailed, nuanced conversation. I'm grateful for people like glyphosate girl, Kelly Ryerson, that she's chosen to be the primary expert for that, because the amount of research and papers she has to read and news she has to keep up with just for that. Same thing with the chemtrails. I don't have the bandwidth to do that. I'm just grateful to know somebody is. Same with Epstein. I'm glad there are people putting pressure there, because trying to fix the food system is a big enough issue. God has made it very clear to me, stay focused. And this is my focus. It does not diminish the other needs, but this is I used to tell people, especially during COVID, pick a hill to die on because there's plenty and somebody needs you to stand by them, right? Mine's the food system and preserving the family farms and ranches. Somebody else's glyphosate, somebody else's Epstein, somebody else's chemtrails. Those conversations are being had, whether they're being taken seriously or not. I couldn't speak to that because I'm not in those meetings, unfortunately.
Man, I love it. I'm a little disappointed, AJ. I thought you were going to take on a whole lot more than just, trying to save everybody with food.
I'm sorry.
Come on, man. Come on. With all that free time you have.
Yeah.
The last time you were at Mountain Readiness with us here, a couple years ago, we got into the discussion of the RFID chips and stuff that was going on out there with that. What happened with all that? Is this still a thing? Are they trying to monitor every little piece of the happenings out there? Go into some detail for everybody out here about that.
Yeah. So EIDs is still on, and EIDs, for anybody who doesn't know, electronic identification tag gives them the ability to track the animal where it's at, right? And so it's when you ask a rancher how many cows he has, it's like asking you how much money's in your bank account. It's very private. They don't want you to know. Now, we as consumers, I don't want anybody to know except the rancher, because I don't want them to pinpoint where the food is and go and cull it if that was, if we had the wrong administration in there. And so that's still on the table, but it has far less teeth and far less likelihood of becoming a reality because of this administration and because of the people that Rollins is meeting with. The old guard, the people that are corporate cattle guys that, bought into the big system and that's where they make their money, they don't have a seat at the table and they are pissed. So the loudest dissenting voices in beef agriculture right now are the people that were part of the Big Four. And most of these are American ranchers, but they bought into a system of corporate consolidation, and they're the ones who want the EID tags. They're claiming it's better for keeping health records. They have all these different claims, but they're just parroting what the big guys want them to parrot. And I just don't hang out with them. That's, but yeah,
that's probably a good policy. Don't hang out with them. Is it a problem though with going out and culling? I mean, are they actually forcing that? Because last year it was a struggle. I mean, it was an insane struggle for us to get chicks because they were culling so many flocks, from all the big producers. I mean, we had canceled orders. We were jumping from one to the next. We even hatched some of our own. I mean, is this happening with the cattle as well, or is it kind of everything's backed off?
Yeah, none of that's happening with the cattle right now. In fact, the primary focus is building the herd. Kennedy was actually just at a big cattle conference that's run by these corporate guys. And it's the biggest one of the year. And he said, please retain your heifers, meaning hold back your feet. So for those who don't know, heifers are your females. Please retain them and breed them so we can bring our herds back. Now, the other side of that is the ranchers are saying, well, I need you to signal confidence in the market, because right now I can go sell that heifer and make money for the first time in 10 years. So you've got to give me the confidence to hold on to her and know that there's going to be a market for me later on. And so those are some of the challenges that they're dealing with. But yeah, the EID is not a concern right now for culling, but if that gets passed, who gets elected next and what's their agenda? That's the concern. But we can just look at, I think it was Ireland, they implemented EIDs and then they called for the culling of 250,000 of their cows. That was like 2 years ago. So they implemented EIDs. Now they know where everything's at. Now the government said your cows are causing problems for the environment, so we need to kill 250,000 of them. And I think it got enough pressure that only 100,000 got culled, but they're the example, right? And so it's like, no, we don't even want to open up those floodgates.
Man, I tell you what, if there was ever a time for that food emancipation proclamation that Joel Salatin came up with, it's definitely right now. If the government in local, state, federal would just get out of the way, we the people would definitely find a viable way to make all this work. In fact, it would work just in terms of the abattoirs alone, and my knowledge, because that's part of my background as well. I mean, it's insane. If some outside element were to come in and just do damage to just select ones, it would shut this whole doggone country down. It really would, because of the stupid, idiotic bottlenecking that happens out there. And then we know that private abattoirs have far less contamination, far less everything than the bigs out there.
Yeah.
But I want to know, AJ, let me kind of shift it a little bit back to where I was going to go. I meant to ask you this question a moment ago, but I got on my soapbox about these chemtrails, so sorry about that. What would need to change if you were the one running things at the highest levels, despite what I just said? Let's just say you could call the shots. What are some of the biggest things that would need to change to make farming viable again?
Well, first of all, I agree wholeheartedly. Food Emancipation Proclamation, or the Prime Act, that should be the priority. I don't know if that'll happen with this administration. They still have 3 years. Maybe what they're doing now rolls into that being done before they leave. I don't know, but that's what I would focus on. I would say, let's make it so that consenting adults can choose for themselves, right? Why can't I go and buy from you as an adult? I get to choose that. And so that's definitely something that I think needs to happen. The other thing, I said it earlier, massive campaigns to educate consumers on buying direct. Because again, to me, it always is going to come back to, if 86% of our producers require retail dollar to be viable, if we could make that popular again, back to when our grandparents did it or great-grandparents did it, that's immediate revenue into their bank accounts. They're not waiting on a loan. They're not trying to get grants. That's money straight into their account the moment that transaction happened. So in my view, let's just take From the Farm. If I could wave my magic wand and we make all the right decisions between now and the next 3 years, and we bring in the capital we need to scale our company and deliver what we're trying to deliver, and it became the Airbnb, the same volume of traffic that Airbnb gets, there would be so much food purchasing happen from the farm. We would need more farmers. And all of those folks that are interested in homesteading and getting out of the cities and getting on a piece of land. I mean, I know people who got into Airbnb because after a few years, they learned that, man, people on Airbnb are making a killing. And so because the ecosystem existed, they started another source of revenue for their family. If we can do that with farm direct food and have a designated ecosystem that prioritizes the farmer and rancher, and we drive millions of people there, the farmer no longer has to pay for the marketing. The farmer no longer has to deal with all of the tech stack that goes on with that, just a simple website. And that's money they save, which means more money in their pocket. Now, the guy that's sitting in a cubicle that wishes he could be farming, the guy next to him is like, hey, bro, did you see this thing called From the Farm? They need more farmers. There's more customers than they have product for. That opens up, in my opinion, that would open up a new agrarian movement. It would start decentralizing our food system in a parallel economy. And then, of course, we've got to solve for the processing side. I ran a slaughterhouse, a USDA slaughterhouse for 1.5 years here in Cody. That's what moved us here. So I'm pretty familiar with the challenges on the processing side. But we can start moving in the direction that actually shifts how we prioritize our food, where it comes from, and get more people farming.
So for the backwoods hillbilly dummy like me, and for anybody out there that is not tech savvy, because I ain't, and I can appreciate what you're saying of with your platform. I raise chickens, and I want to make sure that people can buy my chicken. How does this work? How do I go to From the Farm as a producer and get on board so that people know I exist?
Yep. Thanks for the question. You go to producers.fromthefarm.org, or you could just go to fromthefarm.org, scroll to the bottom, and it says become a producer. I like how you put that, because I built this for farmers and ranchers because when I was selling direct, the tech that was available from companies that claimed to be for farmers and ranchers, clearly they were not farmers and ranchers because it was very complicated. So our entire design is, I have my 65-year-old ranching uncle in the back of my head. What is he going to have to do when he sits down to build his store? And how do we make that as simple as possible so he can go live and then not worry so much about that tech stack or building out a website or all of these things. So we did build it to be that simple. Now, it doesn't have the features that you're going to get on Shopify, but Shopify, you've got to know how to plug in different, programs and have somebody manage them for you and do all of these things because it's built for you to have your own website and do your own marketing and all of those kinds of things. Fine. But the everyday person, especially those that are just getting started, that is way too complicated. And we need to give them an on-ramp that's very simple. And so, we built our tech just for you, T.
That's perfect because I speak for not only myself, but for Billy, because we rely on our wives because they do all that stuff.
Yep.
And it ain't my wheelhouse. I'm the strong back. I don't do all that tech stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's music to my ears to hear you put it that way, AJ, because there have been other people that have come out of the woodwork years ago. And that what you described there was the number one problem. If it is not simple for somebody like me, I'm not going to use it. Bottom line, it better make sense, and it better make sense quick. And if it doesn't, then I'm on the first thing smoking to the next one who did make it simple. Yep. So I think you hit the nail right on the head with that. And it doesn't even, I just don't have the patience for electronics. I mean, at dealing with animals, I can do that all day long. People, not so much. Yep. Tech, not at all. So, man, folks, you see why AJ is going to be at the Sovereign Health Summit. You see the importance of why he's going to be there. That's going to be October 27th through the 31st. And he's going to be one of our speakers out there, folks. You want to definitely check it out. And you may even have time to, hit him up with questions like I certainly will about things you can't necessarily talk about on YouTube. So AJ, once again, tell everybody where they can help, how they can help, and where they can find you.
Yeah. So if you're a producer, we need you. We're driving traffic now. It's not a ton, but we are driving traffic. And I think the biggest challenge we have is not enough options for people coming in from all over the country. So if you're a producer, we've built it so you can actually start with us completely for free. There's some tools that you won't have access to that are behind our subscription wall. It's only $50 a month, but if you're just starting, you don't need those tools. So we wanted to help people get started, give them a free place to list their stuff and start growing their business. So fromthefarm.org, if you're a farmer, we would love to connect with you and serve you. If you're a consumer, go to fromthefarm.org, put your zip code in and buy as close to your home as possible. I'm here for all farmers. So if you don't find anybody there, Google it. Just buy direct. Start, like I said earlier, pick one thing in your pantry or one thing in your freezer and change it out with somebody that you can shake their hand. And if you're a praying household, when you bless that meal, there's a much higher level of connection to your food when you're blessing your food and the person who raised the beef and who grew the grain for your bread and who milked the cow I think that's what God intended. And pursuit of capitalism alone. I'm a capitalist. I'm a conscious capitalist, but pursuit of unconscious capitalism is what separated us from that. And we don't even know what we're missing. Because that was new for me when we blessed our food. And all of a sudden I said, bless the producers who grew it. And all of a sudden I see each of their families' faces in my head. That's meaningful. It means something.
That's powerful. That's powerful. I love how you just put that. And it is, we become this instant gratification push button world, the quick, fast, in a hurry, gimme, instead of stepping back, taking some time and working with people that are in our community. How far out does your platform reach so far? I mean, are you kind of on the West Coast at this point? Or are you creeping across? Where are you at currently?
Yeah. If I can share my screen, I'll just pull up our map real quick and show your folks. We have 100 producers in 35 states across the nation. Hope I didn't lose you guys, but this is our current map of everybody that we've got.
You got me. I think Billy, he may have hit the wrong button. He'll jump back in.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as he gets back in, we'll pull it. He's the only one that can control that. I can't control it. But let's ask this question, because we still got a few minutes before we pull this map up, because I really want people to see what you guys are doing in a physical map. I'm a visual guy, so if I can see it, that makes the whole difference for me. But what is your priority right now moving forward? I mean, you've been all over the place, and I even hate to call or text you because you're always on the road. And my fear is that I'll catch you when you're actually taking a breather for a couple minutes. But where is your next? What's your next step towards food sovereignty and getting this rolling?
Yeah, we need to find investors that are mission oriented, that are interested in helping us scale what we're doing. So we've done this from scratch with friends, and all of my team came from my hometown. They've all got connection to ag. My co-founder, Brooke Entz, former CrossFit superstar. She's amazing. She's a rancher. So we have done this with our own, with resources close to us. We've got the foundation. Now we need to scale it. And that requires bigger money. And I've had to tell people no, because I could tell they weren't interested in the mission. They were interested in the potential return on their investment. Now, as an investor, you want that. But if that's the priority and you're wanting to have us change our vision to serve our farmers and consumers first to get to that, it's not a good fit. And so that's the main thing, looking for investors that come in and help us scale. Onboarding farmers and ranchers that haven't learned about us yet so that they can be a part of the ecosystem is the next big thing. And then just getting more exposure, driving more consumers to the platform so they can buy direct.
All right. And I'm looking up in the corner, man, and everybody out in the chat, give me a 5x5. Are you guys still out there? Because I can't see because Billy's out, but I'm not sure if we lost Billy or if they killed us.
It says live, and
it does say, I'm looking for the live up. Oh yeah, there it is. It is live. Yeah. So how about you guys out there in the comments? Can you still hear us okay? I just text Billy. He's going to try to shoot back in, but since he's not here and we may have to wrap the show up on our own, I mean, tell us about the map, because we can't share it. Where all across where you guys currently at? Yep.
East Coast to West Coast, north to south. We have a couple of states that don't have anybody in there, but most of our producers will ship. So just find somebody close to you so the shipping is low, because they're all over, 100 people across 37 states. If you go to fromthefarm.org, at the bottom of the screen, if you scroll down just a little bit, a button will pop up that says Map View, and you can go look at that map yourself. It's interactive, so you can kind of hunt around, click on the individual, bubbles for the farmers that are represented, and you can go to their store, see what they have for sale. But yeah, we're really, really grateful. The people we work with, we do a monthly call with everybody, and our farmers are telling us how to build it. I'm not building this and telling them use it. I'm saying, what else do you need? What's the next feature you need? What could be done better that isn't working so well? This, like I said, this is built by and for producers, and that's our commitment. So when you come in as a producer, you're part of our family, you're part of our team, and we're here to serve you.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And just so everybody knows, like, you can be any type of producer, right?
Yeah, we've got somebody selling donkey milk. We've got
what?
I never heard of that until
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so there you go. As long as it's allowed to be sold in your state or in your county, and there's ways for you to find that out. We can guide you on that. You can sell it, but what we require is it's from you, the producer.
Okay.
So cottage goods, all those things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Billy's trying to get back in, but I know you're a busy man and we're about at the top of the hour. So,
Yeah.
I really am looking forward to, we're going to have you out there at the Sovereign Health Summit speaking on Saturday. That's going to be an awesome time. The event in itself, guys, if anybody does not know what's going on October 27th through the 31st, we have got the leading names in everything. I mean, we literally coined the phrase from soil to soul, because we are talking everything from soil health to every way possible to heal yourself without all the modern medicines and the things that, I get it. If I've got arterial spray, I probably need to get to the doctor, but there's a lot of other directions that we can go to help heal ourselves without eating a handful of pills every day. But I really appreciate you, man. Thanks for taking the time. If you don't care, can I jump on just a telephone call? Because we can shut this down for a couple minutes when we wrap up here. But, man, I'm looking forward to October.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me back out. I'll be excited to see you in person again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Billy isn't going to make it back, guys, so I'm going to wrap it up for him. And I don't have that cool pimp voice, but I do the best as I can. You guys stay safe, stay alive. We'll see you next time.